Welcome to my channel, and of course I'm accompanied with my brother here, Mokwa Times,
Yeah.
the political analyst mwenyewe.
The only one right now, anasema ukweli.
Yes. So now Mokwa, I've been seeing people commenting in my posts or in my videos saying Morara should look for Okiya Omtatah for more advices ama waungane ili wafanye kazi pamoja. Some are saying people like Mother Karwashi has been fighting for this country for a long time despite wao wenyewe kukuwa na changamoto zao. But do you think or do you suggest the suggestion yenye wanapeana especially Okiya Omtatah, because Okiya Omtatah we have been seeing him anaenda courts peke yake, anapigana peke yake. That guy personally, I love him so much. Do you think if he works with Morara, ama Morara will really accept maybe awe guided by Okiya Omtatah, or what's your take about Okiya Omtatah personally?
Okiya Omtatah has a proven personality that we need as Kenyans. Before Morara, before any other person, the only person we used to have, it was Okiya Omtatah, who was trying to ensure at least Kenya's gotten justice. I get in this. He took Finance Bill 2023 to court single-handedly. Na challenge. That was not the first time we were seeing Okiya Omtatah on the courtrooms. Okiya Omtatah has been in the courtrooms, kila mtu alikuwa ndani lawyer. But until since to determine later on that Okiya Omtatah is just an ordinary activist who is trying to make Kenya a better place. The people of Busia were so good enough to see that this guy is the best person who can have a senator, and they gave him that senatorial seat. So therefore, Morara does not have a choice, to be honest, on having Okiya Omtatah on board. I get what you are saying here. Okiya Omtatah, if Morara was like him, having the personality tumekuwa naye, tutaenda mbali. Saizi as we speak, Morara angekuwa shakuwa rais wa Kenya. Without going far, let us just say, Morara must work with people like Okiya Omtatah. Because we need people so to guide us. Because we are the thing we have to accept. We are young people in this country. When guided by elders, we will go far. Therefore, basically, we need him to come on board, guide us through, and also show us some of the things we don't know as a team. So let me also tell you a very simple thing here. Okiya Omtatah is in an independent party. Okiya Omtatah, he has not affiliated himself either to opposition or to government. Okiya Omtatah has maintained his course of duty of going to court and ensuring that government has been taken to court on anything that they do against the government. Okiya Omtatah has also ensured that he does not condone anything to do with injustice in this country. And he has always come out bravely to do any other thing that we want as Kenyans. He has fought for some bills and Simamisho before. Even he, Chief Shah, is the one who took them to court. So then, with someone in such a kind of a proven personality, it shouldn't be a question whether Morara Kebaso should accept or not, unless Morara Kebaso is working for someone else. Naona sasa, if he is a neutral person, tunataka kuona Okiya Omtatah wakimiti na Morara Kebaso wakishare on the way forward. Tunataka kuona hata hao watu wawili wakikaa chini wakipanga gava. Tujue like, right now what we need in Kenya is an alternative government. Deputy President, Vice President, the President, and also even the Prime Minister for 2027. And if Okiya Omtatah is in the mix, I swear to God I'm okay. I get in that. We need to see these people sit down and share. What is we need to do on this? What is happening in this? What is the next move for done? Why should we all fight for justice, yet we are doing different things differently? Kama sisi wote tuna fight for justice is proven. Si tusonge pamoja. Yeah, si tusonge. We are having the common enemy. Let's put together our arsenals and shoot together. Tuone kama tuna hit. Let's speak one language. Huyu akishikwa tunajua huyu ameshikwa. Because Okiya Omtatah right now he stands and says, if Morara is arrested, release Morara Kebaso. The whole world will listen. Because Okiya Omtatah is a very serious man. He has survived in the Kenyan politics. Okay? Kama saizi ingezekana angeshikwa kitambo sana. Umeona ameshikwa? It's because Okiya Omtatah has put in a certain position. Hata ukimshika, makanisa yatakata, watu wa kawaida watakata, walevi watakata, all professional organizations watakata, because Okiya Omtatah has been very sober. If it is William Ruto anamwambia mpana president, hii nao ukiguza tutakupeleka kotini, because he is truthful to the constitution. So therefore, when it comes to the issue to do with Morara Kebaso, I think they should work together, and I want to see that on board. Morara Kebaso can make his team better by having such people on board. It is not necessary that forming a coalition, because of course tunataka pia sisi to strengthen kwanza, tukue strong, ndio tupate more allies politically. But so long as we have a certain agenda, for instance, tunataka kupigana na Adani, don't you think we need Onyonka, we need Okiya Omtatah, ndio tuseme Onyonka tupe information. Okiya Omtatah, what does the law say? What does the constitution want us to do? Then tuambie JZC to New Street. Street. So that tunakuwa efforts hawa na hawa zina work. But now if we alienate ourselves from these other leaders, right, let me tell you this. Before we had Morara Kebaso, who we have right now, alikuwa na Ruto. Does that make him not a better leader now? No. Sidona, alikuwa na Ruto. Amemleta hadi Kisii. Hiyo time akileta Kisii, unajua sisi tulikuwa tunakataa Ruto. I get this. Which means tulikuwa mbele yake ukataa nani?
Ruto.
So therefore, tumekuwa mbele yake ukataa Ruto, which means I know worse part of Ruto than him so far. Personally, and from my level. Because mimi sikutaka Ruto before. So, tumekuwa tukikataa Ruto all through. Sisi tukikataa Ruto, Morara alikuwa anamkampenia. Now amefika hapa amekataa, tumemsupport. Okay, now that you're up there to push, I think he needs to see that there's something we saw that he didn't see before. Isn't it? It's not the only projects zenye ziko stalled. Some of the projects they were launched before 2017, before even 2022. But baada akaenda akamsupport. Hizo projects watu wengine walikuwa wameziona before hata Morara kuja kuzi-expose. It's only exposure ndio hatukufanya. Sinaona? Hii launching project tulikuwa tunajua wakati Uhuru Kenyatta. Ile time Uhuru Kenyatta akisema tanga. Ruto was launching project right, left and center. Hapa ameweka hii, hapa ameweka hii, hapa ameweka hii. Na ziende mahali. Kuna mahali anaweka mawe anatoka na inaenda hivyo. Na mingi Morara is launches zote. So therefore it is very clear we cannot condemn anybody who was with William Ruto before. Or who was even with Raila Amolo Odinga. So long as you mtu ameamua kubadilisha Kenya. In the Gen Z there are rules on operation. Hatutaki mtu corrupt. Hatutaki mtu ambaye serve the government before akafanya vitu ambeza ziko. I get this. Hatutaki mtu anapanga kuibia wa Kenya. We don't want corrupt leaders on our side. We don't want selfish people. So that means, as we speak right now, Morara Kebaso should be one simple thing aware of. That as a team, we are not interested in fighting any other person. We are just wanting them to come on board so long as we are like-minded. That is it.
Carry on. Yes, thank you. For my voter from Busia, I think you are not on the ground. And if you are depending on the Auditor General's reports and reports of the EACC, you are totally lost. Those reports are heavily sanitized. I've engaged the Auditor General, I've rejected the reports on Busia. They don't reflect the reality on the ground. I'm pursuing 2.5 billion shillings lost from a budget of about 8 billion shillings, not 400 million. It's 2.5 billion that I'm pursuing. Right now I'm in court, 3 cases with the governor in court. If you are aware, I was stoned in Busia. Goons stoned me because I was trying to ask for documentation. I'm not the kind of guy who stands in funerals and begins insulting people. I follow the evidence. And fraud survives on concealment. Why would I, a senator for Busia, have to go to court, to take the governor to court, to be allowed to the documents? Yet the law requires that the documents should be on the website. You see? So there's a lot of concealment in Busia, but you are dealing with it not emotionally, but scientifically. And you are going to see people in jail. You are talking about the finance bill. When I went to court in 2018, you remember, some of you are old enough will remember, there was a time around the budget time, people would hoard goods would disappear from markets, and then after the budget is read, they come back with new prices. The reason was the finance bill became law the day it was read by the minister. In 2018, I went to court and challenged it. I won the case, and the court ordered the finance bill must be debated in parliament. That's why today you have had a chance to discuss it. You would not have discussed it. And beyond that is the budget itself. What is inside that budget? The finance bill is a mechanism of adjusting budget laws and any taxation laws. The real problem is inside the budget. When I saw the Gen Zs out, I was very happy. I still see that the Gen Zs, I go to the X spaces, and the Gen Zs are like people who are standing in a closed house and are looking through the keyhole, and they don't like what they are seeing. Some of us are standing on the balcony, and I would invite people to come and stand on the balcony. And that's why I'm saying, our problem, what we really need to do, let us implement the Constitution. The Constitution says the Treasury and the Ministry of Finance should be separate. Why did the Public Finance Management Act bring them back together? So that the Treasury can be the pocket money for politicians. If we take the Treasury away and put it under professional and lock the key, You will drain the swamp. This money that you confuse will not be there. So let us come and look aside. With the presidential election, the constitution is very clear. Where more than one person is cleared to run for an election, you also have the constitution open Article 138 clause 2, because I have the constitution here. You will find it says where more than one candidate is cleared for an election, an election shall be held in each constituency. We need to have results from each constituency publicized. Where do we go to bombers? There's a returning officer in the constituency who should be able to determine that election there. We should know that in a Madara constituency, candidate A got this, candidate B got that. And then even the media will be able to call the election and say, even before it is declared, they will call the election and say, from the look of things, fulani ameanguka nayo. Sindio? But it's only the Kenyan election that you go and wait for days and days and days without even rejection. So, if we went down and said, okay, we are going to implement the constitution and the presidential election will end at the constituency, and we will know the results, there will be no nonsense of saying who won, who did not win. When you come down to the Bill of Rights, let us implement it. Chapter 6, let us implement those things and demand that these things are done. The other question about the EACC, let us also implement the law on the EACC. The EACC is not supposed to be fighting crime in this country. The EACC is supposed to be enforcing a code of conduct. That is chapter 6. Supposed to see that people are reporting to work on good time, people are wearing clean clothes, people are behaving well. Crime busting must be given back to the police. Let people not go to perform catwalks in Integrity Center. Let them go and sleep on the floor of the house. There is something in this country called mischaracterization of crime. And the elite have succeeded to mischaracterize two very serious crimes in this country. One of them is what you call corruption. It's theft by servant. Theft by servant, and they should be arrested by the OCS and put in police cells and be made to sleep on the floor. Not to go and be given 3-course meals at the EACC. The other crime that has been mischaracterized in this country is robbery with violence concerning theft of livestock. We call it cattle rustling. We call it a cultural activity. But people are snatched property, people are killed. So that they can be snatched animals to come and sell them in Nairobi here. If we made that crime robbery with violence and told the police, we don't want to see robbery and violence in this area, these things will end. So, what I played with you, let us get properly informed. And what I really need, and I'm happy that there have been some issues here that have come up, let us get properly informed. This kind of fora, I would like also some sections dedicated to expert work. Like if we were to sit here today and say we are going to do the audit of the public debt as a people today, we are going to do a people's audit of the public debt, and we list our debts from independence, and we see what have they done, and we apply the standard in Article 229, Clause 6, which says that we audit for lawfulness and we audit for effectiveness. All the loans that the IMF has given to the President Ruto, all the loans the IMF gave to President Uhuru, never went to Parliament. Why? The appropriations bill, where are they in that bill? Even the Eurobond, in the 2015 budget, go and check, it is not there. So why are we being burdened with these things? We have got a doctrine of odious debt that can empower us as a sovereign people to say we shall only pay what we consumed and what benefited us. If the money benefited a regime, then the regime should be meant to pay. Or if we pay it, we auction the owners of the regime to refund the state. Once we take that radical step, I'm telling you, there's nothing less than radical surgery in terms of the rule of law. Article 40, Clause 6 states very clearly, you have got no right to stolen property. Why are people moving around with stolen property? So let us go there, and we will be able to liberate our country. But let us first of all educate ourselves and let us understand where the problem is. And if we implement this constitution, Look at every clause and say, make sure it's implemented. Reject those who are saying that amended the law. There's no problem with the law. The problem is with the monkeys in the forest. Not with the forest. It's the monkeys in the forest who are a problem, not the forest. So let us deal with the monkeys in the forest. Let us implement the law. And those who have stolen, even Article 225 Clause 6, says if you are in office and public funds were lost, whether if you are a politician or as a civil servant, you are liable even if you are out of office. Why are we not using these clauses in the law? Today, if you read the Business Daily, somebody this guy was the interior, director of interior before the Ruto government came in, Kibicho, made a decision that's costing us about 6 billion shillings. Just by cancelling a contract and trying to make a deal. Why should he work free? Let him be auctioned so that that's how we should go ahead. There is no middle ground. And everybody must account for themselves. And for my Busia fellow, there's no way Busia will be happy when Kenya is sad. The rot is in Nairobi. These governors who are rude and they cannot do anything are protected from State House. Let us deal with the State House. Let us clean up where the fish begins rotting with. And that's why I agree with the issue that Ruto must go. And it's not negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me first add on to that because
this kind of grade political prostitution is not acceptable. He can do the prostitution with the old order, but I think the new order, which is exposed, cannot allow political prostitutes. And unfortunately, Baba turned out to be a political prostitute who cannot resist the temptation to go into bed with any offer that is there by an illegitimate government. For his own stomach. Mr. Riley is just angling for his own stomach. He's not angling for anybody's stomach. He has not even demanded justice for the kids who died. How can he be rushing to go into government when kids have died? Even some we don't know where they are. People have been abducted. We don't know where they are. Before going to negotiate with a criminal, why would he demand that the criminal comes clean on what has happened to this country? Huh? So if he's unable to balance a budget, if he has to mortgage the country to keep governing, he has no business being in power. And as I said in Parliament, the very sword he raised up in Kasarani, time for him to fall on it and die. That's the only honor he can have, to sack himself and get out of office. Let him resign. Let him sack himself. He has sacked the cabinet. Now is the time for him to sack himself and he goes away. We are waiting for him to sack himself. These are the things that are coming up, that dialogue, whatever. These vultures, the same old vultures that have denied this country a chance to move forward, are circling for the thing they are going to feed on the blood of the children who are cut down on the streets of Nairobi and dance on their graves. Must be rejected, must be resisted, and must be defeated. And we are going to fight and defeat this character. I think the dissolving of the cabinet was a survival. That very sword the president was swearing that he was going to use to chop people, he should have fallen on that sword and died with this government. That sword does not just cut one way, it cuts both ways. So if he's unable to balance a budget, if he has to mortgage the country to keep governing, he has no business being in power. And as I said in Parliament, the very sword he raised up in Kasarani, time for him to fall on it and die. That's the only honor he can have, to sack himself and get out of office. Let him resign. Let him sack himself. He has sacked the cabinet. Now is the time for him to sack himself and he goes away. We are waiting for him to sack himself. These are the things that are coming up, that dialogue, whatever. These vultures, the same old vultures that have denied this country a chance to move forward, are circling for the thing they are going to feed on the blood of the children who are cut down on the streets of Nairobi and dance on their graves. The time when that used to happen, I think, is behind us. That blood cries for vengeance, and those responsible must get out of public office. And those yearning to get into public office because children have been killed on our streets are in for a rude shock. The days when Raila could play games with us are over. We are not going to allow this thing that he is trying to do again. He wants to feed on the blood of the children of this country. He did his part.
But it does not have to be that he only fights when he's out of government and he becomes part of every other government. He extended Moi's stay in power. He extended Kibaki's stay in power. He extended Uhuru's stay in power. Now he wants to extend Ruto's stay in power against the wishes of Kenyans. We have to call him out. He's just a mortal like all of us. We have given him respect, but we don't fear him. So I don't see why he's salvating to get into a government that is responsible for the destruction of this country, a government that has mortgaged this country. So he can go ahead, it's his choice, he can go ahead, but he'll go alone. I think there's a generation in this town which says that this country must be governed by law, and those who break the law should be punished. Even our own constitution, if you go to Article 143 of the Constitution, on the immunity of the president is not immune from crimes against humanity. The genocidal actions him and his cabinet have been carrying out in this country by destroying lives and livelihoods are issues he can be held accountable even under Kenyan law, even when he's still in office. And we are exploring chances of suing him in our Kenyan courts to test that Article 143. So those who are running around thinking that an opportunity has presented itself, that they want to get into government, they will get into government against the wishes of Kenyans. The wish of Kenyans now is a new start. We get an election for the president, and we carry out a clean election, not an election that is delivered by the courts. A clean election that terminates at the constituency as ordained by the Constitution, and not one that goes to Bomas. Under our Constitution, we are not supposed to have an election in Bomas. Anybody who cares to read can go and read Article 138, Clause 2 of the Constitution, together with Article 86, B, C, and D. And you realize that an election for president is supposed to take place in the constituency, in each of the constituencies. We get 290 results. That's what we shall tabulate for other requirements to win an election. And at the constituency, an election at the polling station is presided over by a presiding officer, and the constituency level is presided over by a returning officer. When Parliament came up with the nonsense of saying that the chair of the IBC is the returning officer for the president, they violated the Constitution. There's no election to take place nationally for the president. The election takes place at the county. We only aggregate the results from the constituencies, 290 constituencies. So I think that the time has come for us to go back and be true to and faithful to the Constitution. We implement the Constitution. Things like NADCO, all this nonsense these people come up with to try and give them their power of relevance against what the Constitution ordains,